Video 90, The Past Lives of Back to Constitution, explained here by the ancient spirit Tralaka, here in spirit. The inner spirit of Back to Constitution has been around many lives, though let's look far back into his life streams as the ancient spirit Tralaka and his spirit being groups have been talking about. Now, Back to Constitution history goes way back into the Pleiadian system of planets. He had in that system 9 full lives, usually living to a baseline of some 1,500 solar years, though has lived as long as 3,170 in his second life in the Pleiades, where his occupation in the science of advanced horticulture, this was greatly helped, of course, in the fact that being on the right planet with the least amount of harm or possibilities to be harmed or then around his life. Having accepted a job opportunity that was directly in his field of knowledge, to go to a very small planet on the outskirts of the ever-growing Pleiadian system of planets. He had a rather small crew, though, to aid him in developing the horticulture for this latest terraforming project planet that the earlier settlers couldn't handle, so they're working on this to make it available for the later settlers to be able to survive on here, having already things growing there for them to eat. This small planet had a rather fast solar year in its location in a twin sun system. 1 solar year for him would have been an Earth 3.7 years. This rather small planet had been gained in development for the Pleiadians because of earlier projects from the Geniguruli colony from the Lyra system of planets that had failed. Largely this was because the very short solar year cycles they could not adapt their bodies to as well as their many times failed agricultural and horticultural plants that the colonists would need to start their base civilization. This is was a rather strange situation for Pleiades and the Lyran and the Vega system of planets and their many different species have generally worked with each other on tough issues many times in their very long histories as being neighbors. For some strange personal reasons, the Geniguli refused. They refused any outside help on anything. So, well, at least according to the records in the Pleiadian libraries. Yet in his long life, Back to Constitution had on that small planet and his crew bioengineered some 2,301 different plants. There were some of the list here I will talk about. Over 400 different variations of trees. Of those 400 variations, 120 variations were bearing trees and bushes which grew fruits which would grow near volleyball to beach ball in size, and some of the hanging fruits hung like a giant bass cello. Though here, you need to understand that many of the surrounding civilizations in those 3 star systems averaged between 7 to 9 feet in height. For even in that lifetime, Back to Constitution was a full 9 foot 1.5 inches in height. His light blonde hair had streams of red hairs and blue hairs, which in that lifetime was natural for him and his immediate family relations. His eyes were very sharp laser blue. Back to Constitution and his crew also bioengineered 63 variations of vine plants. 1/3 of them grew very quickly and made incredible strong ropes as well as fabric for carpets and sleeping hammocks. 1/4 of the other vines were huge plants. These plants were huge that were, with the vines that produced a rather strange nut. So yeah, they had bioengineered a vine to grow these supersized nuts. These nuts weighed in between 11.3 to 16 pounds apiece. That's a very strong vine to hold that type of weight. The shell will be ground down after harvest and used as fertilizer and strewn around the roots for the next cycle crop nourishment. The nuts themselves, on the other hand, were black in color and with a set of 3 very bright neon color stripes in the center. And all the way around, it was a bright red-orange stripes. The remaining variations of vine plants were herbal and very powerful herbs. Some for using on wounds when they were processed the right way. Some, let's say if you're taking a bath, just put 2 pinches of certain herbal vines processed material in your bath water, and it would take all stress from that person bathing in less than 2 minutes. You will be totally stress-free. Later, it was used in generations later by teenagers to bug out of the school stress and have bath parties, and a whole lot more than 2 inches was put in those bath waters for their parties. Back to Constitution and his crew also developed trees exclusive to only the small planet they were on, which would grow a few feet each solar month. Very fast growing. These trees were flame retardant because of their special type of pure fiber manner of their trunks. Yet the juices from their leaves, and these trees produced massive amounts of leaves, they were used to make coatings for their homes and sold at a very high price to other planet species who would be able to use them so their homes are flame retardant. Now, the main reason Back to Constitution and his crew engineered them was that small planet that they were on for such a long time doing their job had many small in sized meteor showers in 2 cycles of the solar year. Not enough to harm a person so much, but in the early times, a bunch of the homes were put on fire because of those hot meteors coming in. In Back to Constitution later years, he divided his crew into 3 parts to better terraform parts of that small planet's nature so it was more harmonic with the seasons. And this was no small task. So 3 groups were made up on this, and they worked on this from different angles to redirect certain rivers and streams, as well as digging out many small lakes. For most of the natural ones had very large angular rocks strewn around them, which are just about at the surface of the water or a couple feet above, and made boating extremely dangerous. So the higher part of those rocks was ground down and smoothed out to between 45 to 62 feet below the lake's surface. So just about when Back to Constitution and his crew had things nearly done for their job, they were asked, hey, can you engineer a better fish than in the waters and lakes right now, to be able to grow fast enough and strong enough to keep the settlers busy with much extra than they can use, so they can trade with other planets and species to help generate their well-beings. This created a problem, though, for some of the crew had to travel to other planets that had large water to find the right DNA combinations to fix the problem on that small planet with the different fish. Back to Constitution had 5 lives in the Lyra system of planets. He was 7 foot tall with very short hair that was only not quite 4 inches long and straight out in all directions in a wild hairstyle. His hair color was a mix of green and brown hair streams. His eyes were smoky crystal in color. His occupation was a chemist and well known. He was invited, no, it was a request by his leaders to go with them to the planet Mars and aid on 3 of the cities that were having great trouble, to teach them and to build a better drinking water solution for their filtering systems, which they were having great problems with because of all the massive amounts of iron and other toxic gases that are within the surface of the planet Mars. And to also show the residents of the area of Mars how to make their own solutions to put in the water to keep it clean for future situations. With that, what they have on the planet Mars to use. Now, back to Constitution spent 2 lifetimes in the Vega systems of planets. Here he was 9'3" in height, long flowing black hair that was darker than midnight in space. That was to his waistline. This was really thick hair, and it's really shone very brilliantly, strangely. It was such a deep color black, though. He lived in those 2 lives, 2,037 years in one life and 2,510 years in the other, where he was kept very busy in his occupation of natural decorations around the cities and the street formations and the important council and library meetings, all these incredible natural decor outside, and he would make them blend in such outstanding natural settings, which was real relaxing, strangely enough, for the guys who came to do business and ladies who came to do business on that planet. Now, back to Constitution in that life had numerous hobbies. Let's talk about one. One was with quad fused glass like material to reform it and put different elements into that different fused glassy material to make huge art displays that were in a 4th dimensional display setting for the public to see. Back to Constitution. They came to visit many times, and he made very profitable transactions for that hobby. Actually, he made more on his hobbies than he did on his career regular. On the other hobby was chemistry and trying to and horticulture and striving to engineer a tree that would cycle through its full leaf stages every 3 months and then start over with this incredible neon and fluorescent colors on a 3-month cycle that would be continually not more than a plus or minus 1 day of difference upon the cycles of these trees and changing the colors and regrowths. This, though, would take most of his life to figure out. This was quite the challenge for him, and he enjoyed the challenge. And many delights from the citizens who would stop by to see his project hobbies, especially on the ones that were almost figured out, which were hundreds in his lifetime of tried combinations to get that tree that he so pictured would be so perfect. That would be the perfect tree for anybody to have in their area to leave and relax under. But it would spend most of his life until he got it figured out. Which brings back to Constitution to this lifetime, here to help others, as well as to aid others to understand the things upon which he knows, and he explains in many hundreds of very well-made videos. So, as always, my friends, here on Earth, allow yourself to broaden your understanding in the living multi-dimensional, multi-universe. Grow in the understanding. There is not one here on Earth that is a one-time you live and that's it. This is a very old and very bold false propaganda program. For our inner spirit has many, many, many lives and variations of different forms of life within the so many variables between the dimensions, also from life to life. Your inner spirit and the incredible numbers of variations of external expression of your inner spirit experiences in your external looks of your body form. Strive, my friends, strive to live each life as productive and learning as you can, for this will aid you greatly in your future life streams. This here is the ancient spirit tralaka. Good night.